Stop scrolling. Put your phone down and listen. Do you know who is watching you through that screen right now? It's not just big tech. It's your bank. And they are selling your darkest secrets to the highest bidder. Every click you make is costing you actual money, higher interest rates, denied loans, invisible fees. They call it surveillance capitalism. I call it legal robbery. And right now, you are the victim. Think that ad was a coincidence. Think again. The algorithm knows your future better than you know yourself. In the next few minutes, I will expose the invisible machine that is draining your wallet while you sleep. If you value your freedom and your money, you cannot afford to skip this video. Watch closely.
What if I told you that your next credit limit, loan offer, and interest rate are already being decided? Right now, at this very moment, without you having the slightest clue it's happening. I'm not talking about your credit score or your payment history. I'm talking about something far more insidious, something that's watching you right now as you watch this video. And here's the thing that should terrify you. This isn't some conspiracy theory cooked up in a basement somewhere. This is a documented operational system that's been quietly reshaping your financial reality for years, and you've been funding it with every click, every scroll, every moment of your digital life. Think about the last time something strange happened with your finances. Maybe you casually mentioned planning a trip to Europe during a phone call, and within hours, not days, but hours, every financial app you opened was suddenly pushing travel rewards cards at you. Or perhaps you were browsing houses online late one night, just dreaming, not even seriously looking, and then your credit limit mysteriously adjusted downward. You probably chalked it up to coincidence, to algorithms doing their thing, to the normal weirdness of living in a connected world. But what if I told you there's a name for what's happening to you? What if I told you that you're not the customer in this equation, you're the product, and a highly profitable one at that? You see, we've all been told that we live in the age of free technology, free email, free social media, free maps, free everything. But nothing is free, and you already know that deep down. The real question is, what exactly are you paying with? The answer is more disturbing than you might imagine. You're not just paying with your attention or your data in some abstract sense. You're paying with your behavioral surplus. Every hesitation before you click, every typo you make and correct, the speed at which your fingers move across the keyboard, even metadata about where you physically are when you make certain decisions. All of this is being harvested, refined, and packaged into something called prediction products. And these products are being sold in a marketplace you never agreed to participate in, to buyers who are using them to shape your financial future in ways you can't see and don't control. This system has a name that you've probably never heard, even though it's been operating in plain sight for over a decade. It's called surveillance capitalism, and it represents a fundamentally new form of power in human history. This isn't about companies trying to sell you stuff. That's old-school capitalism, and frankly, that we could deal with. This is about fabricating certainty about what you will do before you do it, and then selling that certainty to the highest bidder. Banks, insurance companies, lenders, credit bureaus, they're all buying predictions about your future behavior, and they're using those predictions to decide how expensive your life is going to be. Have you ever wondered why two people with identical credit scores get offered completely different interest rates? Have you ever felt like the system somehow knows you're desperate before you even fill out an application? You're not imagining it. There's an invisible architecture of behavioral modification operating behind every financial interaction you have, and it's optimizing for one thing only: extraction. Not your well-being, not fair market prices, not economic efficiency, just pure extraction of value from your behavioral data. And this isn't bad luck. This isn't the free market working as intended. This is a system, carefully constructed and constantly refined, that treats your inner life as raw material to be strip-mined for profit. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how this machinery works, why it was built, and most importantly, why it's quietly deciding how much everything in your life costs. What you're about to discover might fundamentally change how you see every financial decision you've ever made, and every one you'll make in the future. So stay with me. Because we're about to pull back the curtain on the most profitable surveillance operation in human history, and you're standing right in the middle of it. But before we go deeper into this rabbit hole, I need to pause for just a second and ask you something. Have you ever experienced that moment? That eerie, unsettling feeling when an ad appears on your screen that's so specific, so perfectly timed to your exact situation, that it feels like your phone has been listening to your private conversations? Maybe it was a loan offer that popped up the exact day you were stressing about an unexpected bill. Maybe it was a credit card promotion that appeared within hours of you checking your bank balance and feeling that knot in your stomach. Maybe it was a pre-approved offer for something you hadn't even told another human being you were thinking about yet. If you've ever felt that chill run down your spine, that creeping sensation that something is watching you in ways you don't fully understand, then you're not imagining things. You're not paranoid. You're awake. And that matters more than you might realize, because what we're talking about here isn't just some abstract theory about technology and capitalism. This is about your actual life, your actual money, your actual freedom to make decisions without invisible hands pushing you in directions that profit someone else. The stories you have, the experiences you've lived through with these invasive financial nudges, they're not isolated incidents. They're data points in a much larger pattern, and when we share them, when we put them together, we start to see the full picture of what's being done to us. So here's what I want you to do. If this is resonating with you, if you're starting to see your own experiences reflected in what we're talking about, leave a comment below and tell me about the most invasive financial moment you've experienced. What was the thing that made you stop and think, wait, how did they know that? Was it an insurance quote that changed after you searched for symptoms online? A mortgage rate that shifted after you browsed certain neighborhoods? Or maybe something even stranger that you've never been able to explain? Your story matters because it helps all of us understand just how deep this system goes. And honestly, reading your experiences, connecting the dots together, that's what makes this channel what it is. When you hit that like button, you're doing more than just telling me you enjoyed the video. You're telling the algorithm that this kind of content that pulls back the curtain on how money and power actually work, deserves to be seen by more people. You're pushing back against a system that would much rather keep you scrolling through mindless entertainment than thinking critically about who's profiting from your data. Every like is a small act of resistance, a signal that says, yes, I want truth over manipulation. And if you're serious about understanding how the system actually works, how the invisible architecture of modern finance is being used to quietly extract value from your life, then subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Because what we're building here isn't just another YouTube channel pumping out content for views. We're building a community of people who refuse to be harvested, who refuse to accept that their behavioral data should be sold to the highest bidder without their knowledge or consent. We're the conscious minority who are choosing to see clearly, and every person who joins us makes that collective vision stronger and harder to ignore. Your participation here, your comments, your likes, your willingness to share this with people who need to hear it, that's what allows us to keep doing this work, to keep exposing the hidden mechanisms that most people never even know exist. So thank you for being here, for paying attention, for caring enough to want to understand. Now let's go deeper into exactly how this surveillance machinery operates and why it was built in the first place. Now here's where things get really disturbing, and I need you to understand the exact moment when everything changed. Because there was a specific point in time when the relationship between you and technology fundamentally shifted, when you stopped being a user and became something else entirely. That moment was 2001, and most people have no idea it even happened. Before the dot-com crash, Google was actually proud of not being an advertising company. They had what the founders called an antipathy toward ads. They genuinely believed they were building something different, something pure, a tool to organize the world's information. But then the bubble burst, venture capital dried up, and suddenly Google was facing a financial emergency. They needed revenue and they needed it fast. So they did what any desperate company would do. They looked at what they already had. And what they had was something extraordinary that they hadn't fully appreciated until that moment of crisis. Sitting in their server logs was what they dismissively called digital exhaust. All the leftover data from people using their search engine. The typos you made, the queries you abandoned halfway through, the milliseconds you hesitated before clicking, the pattern of searches you made at 3 in the morning when you couldn't sleep. All of this had been treated as worthless byproduct, digital garbage to be discarded. But when Google's engineers started analyzing this exhaust with fresh eyes, looking for anything that could generate money, they discovered something that would change the entire trajectory of the digital age. They found a pot of gold. This wasn't just data about what people were searching for. This was data that contained immense predictive potential. They realized they could determine, with frightening accuracy, exactly when a user would click an ad. Not just which ad they might like, but the precise psychological moment when that person would be most vulnerable to commercial influence. Think about what that means. They weren't just observing behavior anymore. They were developing the ability to predict behavior, to know what you would do before you did it. This was the birth of surveillance capitalism, right there in those server rooms, and none of us were asked for permission. Just as Henry Ford revolutionized industrial production by breaking down manufacturing into perfectly timed mechanical steps, Google pioneered something far more invasive: the extraction of behavioral surplus from human experience itself. They began unilaterally claiming your private experiences, your thoughts translated into searches, your anxieties revealed through browsing patterns, as free raw material for their machinery. And here's the critical thing most people miss. This wasn't about improving the search engine for your benefit. That was the cover story. The real goal was creating what they called internally a physics of clicks, a comprehensive model that could predict what you will do now, what you'll do soon, and what you'll do later. Larry Page, one of Google's founders, actually said that human experience could be Google's virgin wood, raw territory to be logged and harvested at zero cost from the real world. Think about that phrase, virgin wood. Your inner life, your private moments, your financial anxieties and hopes and fears, reduced to timber for someone else's sawmill. And because this data existed in digital space, because it could be copied infinitely without physically taking anything from you, they convinced themselves, and regulators and the public, that they weren't really taking anything at all. But they were. We just didn't have the language to describe what was being stolen because it had never been stolen before in human history. We transitioned, almost overnight, from what people naively called a sharing economy to what is actually a colonialism of data. Your private life became a commodity extracted without asking, refined without your knowledge, and sold without your consent. The scholar Shoshana Zuboff captured this perfectly when she wrote, "Once we searched Google, but now Google searches us." The relationship inverted. You thought you were using a tool, but you became the thing being used, studied, predicted, and ultimately modified. And just to show you how profitable this system is, how much money there is in predicting human behavior, consider this. Between 2001 and 2004, just 3 years, this business model caused Google's revenues to skyrocket by 3,590%. Not 300%, not even 1,000%. 35 times their original revenue in 3 years. That's not normal business growth. That's what happens when you discover an entirely new form of value extraction that's never existed before, when you figure out how to turn human experience itself into a tradable commodity. But here's what keeps me up at night, and here's what you need to understand about where we are right now. Google didn't keep this discovery to themselves. This model, this surveillance capitalism machinery, it spread like a virus through every sector of the digital economy. Facebook saw what Google was doing and said, "We can do that with social connections." Amazon said, "We can do that with shopping behavior." And then the financial sector, the banks and credit companies and insurance firms, they looked at this and realized something terrifying. They could use these exact same techniques to predict your financial behavior, your likelihood of defaulting, your vulnerability to upselling, your maximum pain threshold for interest rates. The technology that started as a way to sell you better ads became the foundation for determining how expensive your entire life would be. And because it all happened gradually, because each step seemed small and reasonable in isolation, most people never noticed the transformation. You never woke up one day and said, "Today I'm going to surrender my behavioral data to be used against me in financial markets." It was taken from you in silence, processed in secret, and sold to institutions that now know things about your future that you don't know about yourself. This is the moment your life became data. This is when your experiences stopped being yours and started being raw material for someone else's profit machine. And the scariest part? This was just the beginning. What started with search queries has metastasized into something far more comprehensive, far more invasive, and far more dangerous to your financial well-being than most people can imagine. If you're starting to feel that uncomfortable recognition, that sense of pieces clicking into place, drop a comment right now and just write, "I see it now," because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now I want to go even deeper into how this system actually operates on a psychological level, because understanding the mechanics of extraction is one thing, but understanding how they keep you trapped in the cycle, that's where the real revelation happens. And I promise you, once you see these patterns, you'll start recognizing them everywhere in your financial life. They use something called dark patterns, and these aren't accidental design choices or happy little coincidences. These are UI elements meticulously crafted by psychologists, behavioral economists, and data scientists working together with one singular goal: to subvert your autonomy without you ever realizing it's happening. Think about the last time you tried to sign up for something versus the last time you tried to cancel it. Remember that experience? They call this the Roach Motel pattern. It's absurdly easy to check in. One click, maybe two. Your credit card gets stored automatically. You're enrolled before you even finish reading the terms. But trying to get out? That's a labyrinth designed by people who studied exactly how to make you give up. You have to navigate through 6 different menus, call a phone number that's only available during business hours in a time zone that isn't yours, speak to 3 different representatives who each try to talk you out of canceling, and then maybe, if you're persistent enough, if you have the time and energy to fight through all of it, you might succeed. Most people don't. Most people see that wall of friction and think, "I'll do it later," and later never comes. That's not a bug in the system. That's the system working exactly as designed. Your exhaustion is a feature, not a failure. Or consider drip pricing, which is one of the most insidious psychological traps in modern finance. You see an advertisement for a loan with a beautiful low interest rate. It looks perfect. It looks like exactly what you need. So you start the application process, and everything seems great. You're moving through the forms, feeling good about your decision, already mentally spending that money or planning how you'll use it. And then, right at the very last step, right when you're most committed and least likely to back out, suddenly there are fees. Origination fees, processing fees, insurance fees you didn't ask for, but are somehow mandatory. That low interest rate you were promised? It's technically still there, but the actual cost of the loan has ballooned into something completely different from what you thought you were getting. And here's the truly disturbing part. Even major financial institutions, companies you've been told to trust your entire life, use these exact tactics. Capital One, one of the largest credit card companies in America, has been sued multiple times for hiding better interest rates from their existing customers while aggressively marketing those same rates as limited time offers to new customers. Think about what that means. They had the ability to give you a better rate all along. You were a loyal customer, you paid your bills, you did everything right, but they deliberately kept that better rate hidden from you because they knew you probably wouldn't go looking for it, wouldn't take the time to call and ask, wouldn't realize you were being systematically overcharged compared to someone who just signed up. This brings us to something truly chilling that researchers call the Big Other. A term that sounds like science fiction but describes the very real digital architecture surrounding your financial life right now. The Big Other is a comprehensive system of tuning, herding, and conditioning designed to shape your habits without your conscious awareness. They've turned your banking app, your investment platform, your credit monitoring service into what can only be described as digital drugs, carefully calibrated to trigger specific psychological responses that benefit them, not you. When an investment app celebrates a risky trade you just made with digital confetti and congratulatory messages, that's not innocent fun. That's a deliberate release of dopamine in your brain, the exact same neurochemical reward system that casinos exploit, that social media manipulates, that every addiction relies upon. They're conditioning you to associate impulsive financial behavior with pleasure and reward, They're training you, the same way you'd train a laboratory animal, to act against your own long-term interests, because it generates short-term profit for them. One data scientist who worked on these systems, and later became a whistleblower, described it in terms that should horrify anyone who values their freedom. He said, "We are learning how to write the music, and then we let the music make them dance." Read that again. They're not trying to inform you or help you make better decisions. They're composing psychological symphonies designed to make you move in predetermined ways, to dance to rhythms you can't consciously hear, but your nervous system responds to automatically. This isn't personalization, no matter what the marketing department calls it. This is what academics have termed power instrumentary. The use of digital tools not to serve the user but to automate the user, to turn your autonomy into what they literally describe as noise that interferes with their profit margins. Your ability to think critically, to pause, to make decisions based on your actual values and long-term interests, all of that is friction in their machine, and they have entire departments dedicated to eliminating that friction, to making your behavior more predictable, more controllable, more profitable. The transformation this creates in how financial institutions see you is fundamental. You're not a customer to be served. You're not even really a person with rights and dignity. You're a behavioral prediction waiting to be monetized, a collection of data points that, when properly orchestrated, will generate revenue. And the most disturbing revelation, this is just the foundation. What they're building on top of this infrastructure is even more invasive. Drop a comment if this is starting to click for you. Just write, "The music is playing." Now I want to show you exactly how this translates into real money leaving your pocket. Because everything I've described so far isn't just some abstract philosophical concern about privacy or digital rights. This is about your actual financial reality, the concrete dollars and cents that determine whether you can afford a house, whether you get approved for that loan, whether you're paying twice as much interest as the person sitting next to you for the exact same amount of borrowed money. And the mechanisms they're using to make these determinations? They're invisible, unregulated, and fundamentally unfair in ways that would be illegal if they were happening out in the open. Financial institutions have moved far beyond traditional credit scores. They now use something called e-scores to judge what they call your digital character. Instead of just looking at your income, your payment history, your debt-to-income ratio, all the things you can actually see and control, artificial intelligence is analyzing thousands of non-traditional data points pulled from your digital footprint. And here's where it gets truly disturbing. Because the specific things these algorithms are judging you on are so arbitrary, so disconnected from actual financial responsibility, that when I tell you what they are, you're going to feel that combination of disbelief and rage that comes from realizing you've been cheated by rules you never knew existed. Let's start with something as simple as your phone. Research has documented that if you're using an iPhone, algorithms automatically classify you as higher income and lower risk. If you're using an Android device, even if you make the exact same salary, have the exact same credit history, the exact same financial profile in every measurable way, you statistically pay higher interest rates. Think about that. The brand of phone in your pocket, which has absolutely nothing to do with your ability or willingness to repay a debt, is being used to charge you more money. Your choice of technology is determining your cost of living, and nobody asked your permission to make that connection. But it gets worse. These systems are analyzing your typing patterns when you fill out applications. If you type in all lowercase, if you make typos in your email address, if you correct yourself multiple times while filling out forms, the algorithm flags you as impulsive. And that designation, that label applied by a machine watching your keystrokes, can double your predicted default rate. Not because of anything you've actually done financially, not because you've ever missed a payment or defaulted on a loan, but because the way you type suggests to an algorithm that you might be the kind of person who makes hasty decisions. The irony would be funny if it wasn't costing people thousands of dollars. Even the time of day you browse financial products is being weaponized against you. If you're shopping for loans or credit cards between midnight and 6 in the morning, maybe because you work night shifts, maybe because you have insomnia, maybe because that's the only quiet time you have away from your kids, algorithms interpret that as a signal of lower self-control. Nighttime browsing gets coded as impulsive behavior, as desperation, as risk. and that can trigger a lower credit limit or higher interest rates before you even submit an application. Your sleep schedule is determining your creditworthiness. What we're witnessing here is the creation of what researchers call a one-way mirror in financial services. The bank can see everything about you. They can see through you, analyze you, predict you with frightening accuracy. But you're looking at a black box. You don't know what data they're collecting. You don't know how it's being interpreted. You don't know why you got denied or why your rate is higher than your friends. You're just told the algorithm decided, and that decision is final, opaque, unappealable. This is digital redlining, and it's happening at massive scale right now. The term redlining originally described how banks in the 20th century would literally draw red lines on maps around minority neighborhoods and refuse to lend there, regardless of individual creditworthiness. That practice was eventually made illegal because it was recognized as discriminatory. But digital redlining does the same thing through algorithms, and because it's hidden in code, because it's justified as neutral mathematical optimization, it's largely unregulated and unchallenged. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. Artificial intelligence doesn't eliminate human bias, it amplifies it. Research has documented that women often receive credit scores 6 to 8 points lower than men with identical financial profiles, identical income, identical payment history, identical everything, except gender. And that 6 to 8 point difference isn't random noise. That's the algorithm perpetuating historical discrimination, encoding centuries of bias into mathematical formulas that get applied millions of times per day, each time widening the wealth gap just a little bit more. The revelation that changes everything is this. You are currently paying what amounts to a hidden subscription to a lower standard of living, and you never signed up for it. An artificial intelligence system trained on biased historical data is deciding that your future is high risk based on factors you can't control and probably don't even know about. Maybe it's because you use Android instead of iPhone. Maybe it's because you shop late at night. Maybe it's because of your gender, your zip code, your typing speed. And every single day, that invisible classification is costing you money in the form of higher interest rates, lower credit limits, denied applications, and opportunities that never even appear on your screen because the algorithm decided you weren't worth showing them to. This isn't happening in some dystopian future. This is your financial reality right now, today, affecting every major money decision you make. And the people profiting from this system desperately want you to keep believing it's fair, that it's just math, that it's objective. But mathematics applied to biased data produces biased outcomes, and those outcomes are extracting wealth from the people who can least afford to lose it. If you've ever felt like the system was rigged against you, like you were working twice as hard for half the results, write this in the comments. I'm paying the hidden tax. What I need you to understand now is who's actually profiting from all of this. Because when you follow the money, when you really trace the flow of dollars from your pocket through this surveillance machinery, you start to see a power structure that's far more coordinated and far more extractive than most people realize. This isn't just one company being greedy or one industry pushing ethical boundaries. This is a carefully orchestrated symbiosis between big tech and big banks, working together to turn your entire existence into a revenue stream. Your financial institution is sitting on what industry insiders openly call a goldmine of transactional data. Every single swipe of your card, every transfer, every bill payment, every ATM withdrawal, it all tells a story. Where you sleep is revealed by where you make purchases late at night and early in the morning. What you value, what you worry about, what you pray for. It's all encoded in your spending patterns. The grocery store you choose, the medications you buy, the neighborhoods you avoid, the charities you donate to. All of this data, which you generated just by living your life, by trying to feed your family and pay your bills and get through the day, is being packaged into what they call data lakes and sold to a $200 billion data broker industry that operates with almost zero federal regulation in the United States. Let that number sink in for a second. $200 billion. That's the annual revenue of an industry most people don't even know exists. An industry built entirely on buying and selling information about you without your meaningful consent. And the scale of surveillance feeding this industry is breathtaking. Companies like Gravy Analytics, which you've probably never heard of, are collecting billions of location signals from your smartphone every single day. They know where you are right now, where you were an hour ago, where you'll probably be tomorrow based on your historical patterns. They're mapping your exact physical movements through space and time, and they're selling that intelligence to insurance companies who use it to adjust your rates, to marketers who use it to manipulate your purchases, to hedge funds who use it to predict consumer behavior, and trade on that information before it becomes public knowledge. And standing behind all of these companies, funding them, demanding quarterly growth, extracting their profits, are the true giants of modern finance: BlackRock, Vanguard, Blackstone. These asset management firms control trillions of dollars, and they own significant stakes in both the technology companies harvesting your data and the financial institutions using that data against you. They own pieces of everything, which means they profit from every stage of your exploitation. When Google extracts your behavioral surplus, BlackRock profits. When your bank uses that data to charge you higher fees, BlackRock profits. When the data broker sells your information to an insurance company that raises your premiums, BlackRock profits. It's a perfectly closed loop of extraction, and you're the resource being mined. These institutional investors demand infinite growth from the companies they control. But there's a problem. Traditional growth has limits. You can only sell so many products, capture so much market share, before you hit saturation. So the entire economic model has shifted towards something different, something more insidious. They're not trying to sell you a product once and be done with it. They're trying to turn your entire life into what they call monthly recurring revenue, or MRR in industry jargon. Subscriptions for everything. Recurring fees for services that used to be one-time purchases. Perpetual payment plans for products you never truly own. Your software is now rented, not bought. Your car features are subscription-based. Your home security, your entertainment, your productivity tools. Everything is becoming a monthly fee. And that's just the visible part. The invisible part is that your data itself has become a subscription service you're forced to pay for, except instead of paying with money directly, you're paying with higher costs on everything else. You're paying with worse interest rates, with denied opportunities, with algorithmic discrimination that follows you everywhere you go. What we're witnessing is the emergence of something that researchers and economists are starting to call neo-feudalism. In the feudal system of medieval Europe, peasants didn't own land. They paid rent to lords for the privilege of working that land and living on it. Their labor enriched the aristocracy while they remained perpetually in debt, perpetually dependent, perpetually one bad harvest away from disaster. The system we're living in now operates on the same fundamental principle, just with digital infrastructure instead of agricultural land. You don't own your software, you rent it. You don't own your entertainment, you stream it until the subscription ends. You don't own your data, it's extracted from you and sold while you pay the consequences. You don't own your digital identity, it's a product that corporations profit from while you remain powerless to control how it's used. You're paying rent to corporate lords for the privilege of your own digital existence, and that rent keeps increasing because the system is designed to extract maximum value from you while returning minimum benefit. And here's what makes this particularly devastating. The transformation is accelerating. Every year, more of your life gets pulled into this subscription model. More of your autonomy gets converted into recurring revenue for companies that see you not as a human being with rights and dignity, but as a data point to be optimized, a consumer to be manipulated, a revenue stream to be maximized. The mentality shift required to escape this trap isn't just about making smarter financial decisions within the system. It's about recognizing that the system itself is designed to work against you, and that recognition is the first step toward any kind of meaningful resistance. This power structure isn't hidden because it's illegal. It's hidden because if people truly understood how it worked, if they saw clearly how their data was being weaponized against their own financial interests to benefit a tiny class of institutional investors and corporate executives, there would be outrage. There would be demands for regulation, for accountability, for fundamental restructuring of how digital capitalism operates. And that's exactly what the people profiting from this system want to avoid. If you're feeling that shift in perspective, that uncomfortable awakening to how deep this really goes, leave a comment. I see the machine now. But here's the truth that nobody in power wants you to hear. You're not helpless in this system. Resistance is possible, and it starts with something I call data autonomy, the deliberate, conscious reclaiming of your right to exist digitally without being perpetually harvested for profit. This isn't about paranoia or retreating from technology entirely. This is about moving from passive compliance to active consciousness, about understanding that every single permission you grant, every piece of information you surrender, is a choice. And once you see it as a choice, you can start making different ones. The journey toward autonomy begins with a simple but powerful action: auditing your permissions. Right now, today, pull out your phone and look at which apps have access to your location, your microphone, your contacts, your camera. Really look at that list. Does your banking app need to know where you are every second of every day? Does your credit card company need access to your microphone? Does that budgeting tool really require your entire contact list to function? The answer, in almost every case, is no. These permissions were requested because data is valuable, not because the service requires them to work. And every time you deny an unnecessary permission, you're cutting off one stream of behavioral surplus. You're making yourself slightly less visible, slightly less predictable, slightly less profitable to the surveillance apparatus. But permissions are just the beginning. You need to encrypt your digital life, create layers between your real self and the data-hungry systems trying to profile you. Using a VPN isn't just for people worried about hackers. It's a fundamental tool for anyone who wants their financial browsing to remain private. When you're researching loan rates, comparing insurance policies, looking at investment options, your internet service provider, your phone company, and dozens of tracking scripts embedded in websites are all watching, recording, building a profile of your financial needs and vulnerabilities. A VPN encrypts that traffic, makes it significantly harder for that surveillance to function. It's not perfect protection, but it's a crucial barrier. The same principle applies to how you search for financial information. Every query you type into Google or Bing is being stored, analyzed, potentially sold. When you search for how to consolidate debt or best personal loans for bad credit, you're broadcasting your financial situation to companies that will absolutely use that information against you. Switch to privacy-focused search engines that don't track your queries, that don't build advertising profiles, that treat your searches as confidential rather than as raw material for prediction products. It seems like a small change, but cumulatively, these small changes add up to significant protection. One of the most powerful tools available right now is the concept of financial avatars, virtual cards that let you complete transactions without leaving your real name, your real credit card number, or your social security number behind in some company's database. Services like MySudo allow you to generate temporary identities for different purposes, compartmentalizing your financial life so that no single company can build a comprehensive picture of everything you do. When you use a virtual card for an online purchase, when that transaction can't be linked back to every other transaction you've ever made, you're breaking the chains of data that surveillance capitalism depends on. And here's something genuinely revolutionary that most people don't know. You have legal rights in this fight. Under emerging state laws like California's Consumer Privacy Rights Act, and following the principles established by Europe's GDPR and Brazil's LGPD, you have the right to contest automated decisions that affect you financially. If an algorithm denies your loan application, if an AI system adjusts your credit limit, if a machine learning model changes your interest rate, you can demand human review. You can force these companies to explain their decisions, to show their work, to defend their algorithmic judgments with actual reasoning. Most companies are banking on you not knowing these rights exist, on you accepting the algorithm's decision as final and unchallengeable. But it's not. You have power here, if you choose to exercise it. Every single one of these actions, from denying permissions to demanding review of automated decisions, is an act of resistance. It's you saying no to a system that desperately needs your compliance to function. Because here's what they don't want you to realize. This entire surveillance apparatus only works if you participate passively, if you click accept all without reading, if you surrender your data without questioning why it's being requested. The moment you start asking questions, denying permissions, using privacy tools, demanding accountability, the moment you become conscious rather than compliant, you become less profitable, less controllable, less useful to the machine. And this resistance isn't just digital. Every time you choose to repair something instead of replacing it, you're refusing to participate in the planned obsolescence that feeds the subscription economy. Every time you choose a privacy-first company over a data-harvesting giant, even if it costs slightly more or is slightly less convenient, you're voting with your dollars for a different kind of economy. Every time you pay cash instead of card for a transaction that doesn't need to be tracked, you're creating a small pocket of privacy in an increasingly surveilled world. Ownership is power in this system. Own your data by protecting it. Own your devices by controlling what they're allowed to do. Own your attention by choosing consciously where to direct it, rather than letting algorithms decide for you. Own your financial decisions by understanding the hidden forces trying to influence them. This transformation from passive consumer to active autonomous agent isn't easy, and it's not instant, but it's the most important shift you can make in protecting yourself from exploitation. The revelation here is that you were never actually powerless. You were just convinced that you were. The system benefits enormously from your belief that resistance is futile, that the surveillance is too comprehensive to escape, that your individual actions don't matter. But they do matter. Every person who opts out, who protects their data, who demands accountability, makes the entire system slightly less efficient, slightly less profitable, slightly less sustainable. If you're ready to start this journey toward data autonomy, drop a comment. Taking back control. If you've made it this far, it's because something fundamental has shifted in how you see the world around you. You're not here for easy answers or comfortable lies. You're here because you value understanding over ignorance, because you'd rather face an uncomfortable truth than live inside a beautiful delusion. And that matters more than you might realize, because the system we've been dissecting together is designed specifically to keep people passive, distracted, compliant. The fact that you chose to spend this time learning how the machinery actually works means you're already dangerous to that system. You're awake, and that's the first and most important step. I want to hear from you in the comments. If this video changed something in how you see your relationship with technology, with finance, with the invisible forces shaping your daily decisions, write this: I see the system now. That phrase tells me you're not just watching passively. You're processing. You're connecting dots. You're becoming part of what I genuinely believe is a conscious minority of people who refuse to be harvested without resistance. Your voice in the comments, your willingness to engage with this material, that's what keeps this channel alive and allows us to keep pulling back these curtains. And if what you've learned here felt valuable, if you can see yourself coming back for more of this kind of deep analysis that cuts through the surface noise and shows you how power actually operates, hit that like button. It seems like such a small gesture, but it tells the algorithm that this content deserves to reach people. That truth and critical thinking have value in a landscape dominated by distraction and manipulation. Every like pushes back against a system that would much rather you stay entertained than informed. Now here's the thing. This system doesn't stop at what we've covered today. The same structures we've been talking about, the same surveillance capitalism machinery, the same institutional forces extracting value from your data, they're being deployed right now to kill the concept of ownership entirely. What we've discussed is just one dimension of a much larger transformation happening in how modern capitalism operates. There's a video right here that goes deeper into that specific mechanism, and if you want to understand the full picture, if you're ready to see how far this really goes, click that next video and keep this journey going. I'll see you there.